Welcome to Rock Your Talk. I'm Leisa Reid, your host. Very excited to be here. And we have an amazing guest. She's going to talk about wealth. How do you get wealth at any income? I sure want to know. So I cannot wait to hear Christina's tips. Welcome, Christina. How are you?
I'm good. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
I know, all the way from Austin, Texas. We're doing national guest today. And so we're going to hear a little bit about Christina in just a moment. Let me share with you a couple of the tips and free gifts that I have for you as our listeners. Um, I'm the founder of Get Speaking Gigs Now. You probably know that. But in case you didn't, I love to help speakers learn how to get booked, stay booked, attract their clients through speaking. And I've got a couple gifts for you on GetSpeakingGigsNow.com. You can download the 5 top tips to get free speaking gigs or to get speaking gigs. And it's free. That's why I was like, oh, either way, paid or free. I don't know. That's up to you. But you can also get a free consultation with me, a speaker strategy session. There's a button on the website for you to do that. That's more if you're like, I know I need to do this. Like, it is time. I got to get out there. And I've been stuck and I've been having this dream for a while, but I just haven't pushed the button. Push the button on that site and schedule a call with me. And I want to be able to see how I can help you. I also am a trainer with Productive Learning, and we're a personal development company to help people with that. If you have some thoughts in your mind, you know that they're not really serving you or helping you, and you know what you're supposed to be doing, but it's not working, or somehow the wheels are not turning, you got to go to productivelearning.com/gift. We have a new course for you. It's called New Thinking for New Actions, also free. So gifts aplenty today for all of you listening. Grab that productivelearning.com/gift. Or if you're in the speaking side, you can go to GetSpeakingGigsNow.com. And those are some great gifts for you. So let's get to our guest. I cannot wait to hear what Krisstina Wise has to say. I'm sure she's got some wise things to share with us. Christina, before you get into your tips, just share a little bit about you and who you are and what you're offering to the world. We'd love to hear that.
Yeah, I feel like I'm like the luckiest person in the world, maybe like most of us, but it just feels like such a gift when our personal passion and purpose is exactly what we do for a living.
Mm-hmm.
And so every day is just a beautiful day. But what I do is, in my business that's called Wealthy Wealthy, it's an online education company. And I have a money school. So I teach people money by going to school, but I teach money as a life skill, like everything we should have learned about money in school, but didn't. And life skill in the sense of what is money, how much money is enough, what do I do with money, where does it go, how do I spend it, how do I save it, how do I grow it, how do I make it, and just really answering a lot of the asking, knowing what questions to ask and then answering those. But money is a mystery to so many people. Granted, we make it and we spend it, but beyond that, there's not a lot of thought or knowing. And so I just like to teach what money is and how to work it so that we can really build abundance and true wealth on a balance sheet.
I love that. And I mean, you probably wish like everyone had that. And like, I just wonder, like, why do we not learn this in school? Like, you learn your money habits from your childhood experiences and your parents, and you don't know what you don't know until you're going, wait a second, I thought it should be easier than this. What happened? So I'm very excited to hear your tips. And I know you have some tips on how to really be wealthy on any income. What would you mind sharing your first tip with us?
Yeah, first I'd like to bust a myth. And the
Cool.
biggest myth that I see is that we kind of have in the back of our head that the the way I solve all my money problems is to make more money. So we're, especially entrepreneurs and different things, or what I call micro business owners, it's all like I need to make more money game. And making money is just one small piece of the puzzle. But the truth, that's all about making money. There's a difference between making money and having wealth. And having wealth, we need to make money to have and to grow and have wealth. But the myth is not that the answer to all of our money problems is to not make more money. The answer to all our money problems is how well we manage our money. So if I teach how to manage your money, that's where you grow the wealth. But nobody's spending time on learning how to move and manage money for wealth creation. So I like to bust that myth. And then the first tip that I like to offer, like that I like to mention, is what I call Parkinson's Law. And money is a knowing game. I mean, it's a knowledge based domain of of action. So when we know things, we can act, but most of us are blind and we lack awareness, and we have all these blind spots when it comes to money, one. And then two, we're pre-programmed, like what you said, that we basically carry the same money mindset and programming from when we're 7 years old that we picked up in our family. So if we've never readdressed it, we're probably subconsciously holding on to those same patterns that in many cases, no matter how hard we work, we're still like at the end of any month or any year, we're like, where is the money?
Mhm.
So part of that is there's this law, there's lots of money laws. And when we understand these, we can work in accordance with these laws again, instead of against them unknowingly. And my favorite of those is what's called Parkinson's Law. And the Parkinson's Law of money says it's kind of two faceted. The first part says that all expenses will always rise to match income. Expenses will always rise to match income. And that's what's called expense creep. So what naturally happens without us even being aware, since we don't know this is like a gravity law of money, that when our income goes up, so if we start our business, let's say we're making 50,000 and then we go to 100, and then let's say we go to 150, our expenses don't stay at the 50,000 level. What happens? They go up to match the lifestyle of everybody earning 100,000. When it goes to 150, they naturally go up to match the lifestyle of 150. They go up to 250. So there's this expense creep that just naturally goes as our income goes up. And then we get in the payments game. So the more money we make, the more payments we tend to have, meaning we have the bigger car payment, we have the bigger house payment, we maybe have different loan payments. So when we know that this law is in effect and we're aware of that, then we can work against that and say, as my money goes up, I'm just going to do a check to make sure my expenses don't match it. Because the only way to build wealth is what's called in the margin. And if you don't know what margin is, then you're not gaining wealth, most likely, because the margin is the differential between the income that we take home after taxes and the money we spend on our lifestyle. That margin is the margin that we get to save, sweep, and invest for asset accumulation, which is on the balance sheet. So we need to know the difference between an income statement and a balance sheet. And the income statement is the income game, and the balance sheet represents the wealth game. So we have to understand that we're naturally part of the Parkinson's Law. So tip is be aware of Parkinson's Law. The second part or facet of Parkinson's Law that says what was once a necessity becomes a luxury. So as our expenses go up to raise or match our income, if our income goes down, we don't sell the expensive car and go from the Lexus to the Honda. We still want to keep the lifestyle of the Lexus because we've gotten used to that type of lifestyle. And for a lot of your listeners are business owners or entrepreneurs, we have variable incomes. And so our expenses have to match the variability of our income. And when we're aware of that Parkinson's Law, we can be very conscious about our spending and making sure we are within that margin and knowing what that margin is. And my tip there is, you're really looking at a 20% margin is the tip if you're really intent upon building wealth.
Wow,
That's tip number one.
yeah, I love that. That's great. I have so many, like, it was like so so much information in a really good way. And I love how you're talking about that. I'm like, oh, I've never thought about it that way, in the sense of like the margin. And so I'll have to ask about more about that. And I'm sure people are, if you have questions for Christina, you're like, how do I find out my margin? I'm sure you're going to share with us how we can get a hold of you. Um, and I remember I've totally fallen into that trap before, where like I look back, I mean, my rent in college was $200 a month, and I remember scrambling to try to get, food, and we were eating top ramen in college and things like that, where you're trying to scrimp and save. And I'm like, wow, if my rent was $200 now, that would be great, but again, that was so many years ago. So we, continue to recreate the feelings that of stress or anxiety or whatever, because then we make the money, so then we think we're going to feel better, and then we go and spend more money so then we feel the same, right? I'm imagining it's something along those lines. And you're saying get yourself in check. Like, what did you say is it, expense creep was what you called it?
Expense creep, yes. And it's
Expense
called
creep.
lifestyle or expense creep, yes.
Yeah,
It
which
looks
is a
like that
great,
lifestyle creep.
yeah, where you're like, wait a second, do I need this new car? Do I need a car paint? Or, like, it can seem so tempting, right? Like very tempting, and a keep up with the Joneses kind of a feeling. if you see someone else's car or house or pool or whatever they've got that you don't have. And I know for me, when I get those items, it's exciting for a little while, but then it does come down because it's not internal, right? It's an external thing. And you think that you're going to really be happy if you have that thing, but it kind of, so I love what you're saying, like really being aware of what is it that you have? What do you need? What's a luxury? What's a necessity? And it's interesting because as humans, like we're complicated, right? Like we have our emotions all tied up in thinking that if I do that, then I'll feel this way. And that's a whole nother Oprah, right? That's a whole nother.
Yeah, and that's something I really say is that we don't want to try to buy our happiness. And
Mhm.
we're trying many times we're with this, we're trying to buy our happiness and we're trying to buy our fitting in. And that's why it's a Parkinson's law, meaning it's invisible until we're aware of it, because naturally we want to fit in. Naturally, the more money we make, the nicer things. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just when we're aware to make sure that, to your point, we don't complicate our lives, because when you're paycheck to paycheck at 50,000 a year, $100,000 a year, $1,000,000 a year, it's the same level of stress. But the more money you make and the more expenses and payments you have, it's far more stressful. So you don't sleep at night when you have a lot of debt, or you have a lot of just that pending stress where you have to get up and go do it again and do it again and do it again at that high level. Like,
Right.
so we create this complication, the stress in our lives by this natural occurrence. And once we're aware of it, we don't have to be victim of that natural thing that we're all in, because of course we work hard. We do want to improve our lifestyle, which is what you want to do. So expense or lifestyle creep is 100% okay as long as you meet your margin. So you have to know your margin, but nobody's talking about margin. They're just saying, go make more money,
Right.
go sell another speaking gig, go do whatever you need to do. Yes, if you need to, but sometimes you can hit an income level that's enough, that meaning that, okay, I'm working,
Yeah.
this is a great lifestyle as far as hours and time and everything, and this is enough where I can hit my lifestyle and hit my margin. And once we know those numbers and we hit it, it just becomes very easy, and then we're in making money and spending it and living life and investing and letting wealth grow over this, what I call the long game.
Well, and it's interesting too, because I imagine not the only one listening who there's so much energy that I can give to thinking about money, and habitual energy and habitual thinking and habitual feelings about money. And so when you're like, oh, what if that wasn't there? Like, what could I create if that wasn't on my mind, or that wasn't something I needed to worry about, or whatever? And over the years, I've really made a lot of progress in terms of detecting my anxiety that I have created for myself. And so, like, got to setting up the LLC, getting the right insurance, whatever it is, all these little things that, like, why would I not do these things to safeguard? So then I don't have to, it's kind of like set it and forget it, and that sounds like what you're, yeah, there's some more details to that, but really like being safeguarding your own mental energy, your own worry about money, and following your steps to where it's like there's ways that you can do it so you're not having that feeling of anxiety all the time.
Well, that really goes into the second tip. So the second tip is you need to know your numbers. And like in the business side, it's kind of obvious. Hey, I need to know how many sales I need to have and how many sales calls and conversions, assuming again in the business realm. But when it comes to personal wealth creation, the same thing applies. You have to know your numbers. You have to know how much money is enough, meaning how much money is enough that I need to earn today to be able to meet my lifestyle requirements, to live a good life. Like, how much does it cost to live my lifestyle plus the margin on top of that? And then what is my long-term number as far as my wealth number? Because what we're working towards is that unless you have a trust fund 20, 30 years from now, whenever that date is, we all are going to reach a point where we're not going to work as hard as we are when we're younger. So it's knowing kind of what that kind of, let's say, age is. It could be 10 years, 20 years, 30 years from now. We get to decide. But what we have to do is we have to become our own trust fund, because where does the income come from when we're not working? There's only two types of income: working income, which both you and I are doing right now, and there's non-working income. What non-working income is? Asset income. That means the asset or assets on the balance sheet throw off the income. And that's what freedom or financial freedom is. So these terms like freedom gets thrown around a lot, but who knows their financial freedom number? It has to be calculated. And it's really easy once you know kind of the simple math and how the kind of the formula for that. But you have to know the number and look at your own timelines and calculate it. Because at some point in the future, when you don't want to work so hard, where's the money going to come that's going to pay for the cost of the lifestyle? If your assets, let's just say the cost of your lifestyle was $150,000 a year.
Mhm.
At some point, we all want to keep that 150 if we like that lifestyle, that
Right.
seemingly no debt and we just paying that lifestyle. Now we need to multiply that 150 by 20, and there's our net worth number. And that net worth number would throw off, kind of rough numbers, that $150,000 a year from our assets. So the day that our assets throw off the 150 a year, then that's financial freedom, because I can pay all my bills and live my lifestyle, and I can choose to go to work or not. And that's how you win the money game. The money game is an asset wealth game. It's not an income game. And again, that's going back to the myth, or the kind of the myth is that the only way to create that future is to pre-design it and to know your numbers. So you need to know numbers. It's like, what's my freedom number? What's my lifestyle number? How many years do I have to create that number? Because again, our trust fund is having that asset base is going to pay us that passive income from our wealth, so that we can actually use our time, because time really is our most valuable resource. We can't buy time. We can't get it back. So that's what we're working towards. What we're working the short game, we're building our businesses, we're making our income, and that's kind of this 12 to 24 month game. But the long game is a 20-year game to be able to work back from. And that even tells us how much money do I need to make today to support my lifestyle, plus the margin, that's the amount of money I need to invest over the 20 years on a monthly or annual basis, that's going to make sure that I hit that number. Easy numbers to calculate, but we're not thinking, what do I do? Where's my money going to come from when I quit working?
Mm-hmm. And I imagine that in your courses or workshops, that you help people break that down into a simple, like, step one, step two, step three. Here's what you need to do to calculate that number and then to adjust as needed moving forward. Yes.
That's exactly what I do. That's what we do in the money school. And here's the thing, when it comes, almost everyone has a really recurrent, constant financial anxiety, because when we don't know these numbers, that's why I say, and this leads to the second tip, is it just breeds that, because we don't know certain things. We have an idea, but sometimes I'll say, like, how much money do you want to make, or how much money is enough? I don't know. And it's like we're just pulling numbers out of the sky. We don't know if that's too much, not enough. Can we do it? Do we want to do it? Because the more money we make, there's usually an opportunity cost, or a time cost that goes with that. So we can remove almost all of that anxiety when we know our numbers, and we put a plan in place, and we work our lives and we work our money according to that pre-designed plan that knows is according, unless there's something unforeseen, we're absolutely going to hit those numbers. So by knowing that, we can just leave the money anxiety out, because we know what we're working towards, and we're working according to our plan in the financial part of life.
Wow. Incredible. I'm so glad you're out there offering this, because we cannot all be good at everything, right? So we need different people who can guide us, and you get to do what you're really good at, and you can see it really easily for other people, and then shepherd them through the process as well. So I love what you're doing. I know
And
you
it's
have
very
another.
simple.
Oh,
Like, yeah, it's just very simple too. Like, so many of us have a fear of money. Like, it's one of those things we're, like my entrepreneurs, what I hear most is like, I don't want to even look at the money. I just want to make more of it. I just want to make it and let everybody else handle the money. And money, again, it's a life skill that when we understand it, when people do the work, they always say to me, like, really, it's this easy? Meaning I've been afraid of it, or avoiding it, or thinking it's not smart enough, or I'm not good at math, or whatever these stories that we kind of subconsciously believe.
mhm.
Once we break that belief system, we see the simplicity of it and put the plans in place, money just becomes a non-issue. It really does. We don't need to live by so much financial stress.
Love that. That's so true. I love that. And I know you have another tip for us too, Christina. What's your last tip?
Yeah, the last tip is, I like to, so much again of kind of the financial conventional wisdom out there when it comes to those that teach money, is like, you should be budgeting and frugal and spend less. And it's like this restriction diet. It's like being on a low calorie restricted diet. Great, you might lose some weight short term, but you're going to put it all back on. That's why a lot of those kind of weight loss programs don't work long term. Money's very similar. Like, those that teach frugality and don't spend, and you're a bad person if you spend money, the tip that I like to give is like, no, you make money, spend every dollar that you make, but you're very intentional and thoughtful and conscious to the different categories of money of where you spend it. So a certain amount of money you make, that margin, that money's earmarked to spend to buy assets. Another amount of money that you make, that's earmarked to spend on your lifestyle. Another portion of the money that you make is earmarked for savings, for those emergency funds and different cash and liquidity that you need. Another one of those is taxes. So we can break up our money into these buckets or into these categories, and I teach the 5 categories, then we can be happy to make it and grow it and build our businesses and do what we do and just be in this real love affair and honor the money. And then to be able to spend every dollar of it in all these things. And all of the spending is designed to be in integrity or in alignment with our short-term goals and our long-term goals, that financial freedom intention that we all want, that we're all after one way or another. We just don't really have a plan or know how to get there, but it's available to everyone. So that just like to give the tip is that, yeah, the tip is spend all of your money. Just know how to spend it and where to spend it and how to break it up to make sure, like, again, you're playing the short game is how to make more money, and the longer game is to how to have enough money. And in that, there's like these 3 major segments of money. 1 is making it, 2 is having it, that's savings or having cash, and 3 is multiplying it. So we need to be in all 3 of these, because you can't income or save your way to wealth. That's kind of another myth. You can't income or save it. You can only grow it by taking advantage of what's called compounded interest and compounding, because our money can multiply much faster and grow at a much faster rate, only 2 to 1 as our hardworking bodies and income, because our money can compound 365 days a year, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. Our bodies can't do that. So our money, when we have it in a growth strategy, it's going to outperform us all the time, 2 to 1. So when we know that, again, and we just put these 3 tips into place, money just becomes easy, and then we're just going according to the plan. But kind of I'll complete by saying you need a plan, and you need a balance sheet, and you need to know how much you're worth and and how much you're building towards. And you'll be able to, and the part of that, the only way to do that is you have to have an intimate relationship with your money. You need to know where every dollar is, the gratitude, see it, move it intentionally. But money requires a relationship. It's like gardening. If we plant some things once and we don't take care of the garden, the weeds are going to grow. Gardening's a verb. Money's a verb. We don't have money, we do money. We create money, we grow money, we build money. But what that implies is, like with your productivity learning that you said, you're saying you need to be in action to produce results. To produce the results we're looking for, which is wealth and freedom, we have to be in action to create that very specific intention and knowing what to do and how to do it. And again, once you learn it, it's very easy.
Excellent. Yeah. And I think that, that what you're saying about it's kind of one of those things, like we know that stuff, but then it's the question for the individuals, like, yeah, well, what about my situation? Or, well, there's the doubts that are going to come up. Well, it's not going to work because I have this, or it's not going to work because of whatever. And so that blocks us from actually getting the information that says, well, let's look at your scenario, go through these steps, and then actually create a plan that works for that person, for each individual, and lines up with your goals. Which is, it's funny because it's similar to what, like, I'll do for speakers. Like, not all speakers are created equal. It's like, you have different, some people want to travel, some people don't want to travel, some people want to make a certain amount of money, some people are like, it's more about this other thing. And so it just depends. I said, well, we need to just come up with a plan that actually works for you. And what's cool about it is that you get to craft that, which is what you're saying. Don't wait for the trust fund that's never coming to come in, but like, take your future into your own hands and start to craft it, which is very, like, more empowering place, especially if you know factually what you're saying. Like, add this number to this number, put this number in this box, and this, and then now you have the black and white plan. You know what you're doing, and that's
Yes,
really empowering.
and yeah, that's so empowering. And that's kind of the nuts and bolts and the pragmatic piece. There's also such a spiritual relational context to money too,
Of
that
course.
when we blend in kind of the spiritual, we get rid of the fear and the lack of confidence. And and just all these different unaddressed issues and beliefs that we have with our money. When we really open it up and we really create a love affair with our money and a gratitude and appreciation, we're focused more on what we do have as opposed to what we don't have. And again, we're in the cycle. Then it really creates this really beautiful dance that we have with our money, and this really functional, positive, healthy, satisfying, fulfilling relationship. In our money, it's almost like a pet. You know, if you have a dog that's neglected, the best dog in the world that's neglected is probably not going to be a great dog. It's going to bite the neighbor. But a dog that's well loved and trained and nurtured and taken care of offers so much love back, and the waggy tail and the slobbery. And dog lovers love their dogs because they get so much love in return. Money's that same thing, but it needs attention. It needs love. It needs to be handled and appreciated and just petted and loved on. So that's a big part of the work. It's getting over kind of that desire to abdicate or to neglect it, and we want to pull it forward and want to learn money, want to get good at it, want
Yeah.
to spend time with it. And when we reverse that, everything else changes.
Wonderful. I love that. And I know you have something to offer for people so they can check this out and learn a little bit more. Where should they go, Christina?
Yeah, I put together on my website, it's called Krisstina.com, which is Krisstina, a K and two S's, spelled a little bit differently. But then I have just a free download, my free copy of my book, and a way to get in touch with me if somebody wanted to. And if you just want to listen in to lots of money conversations, I have a podcast where I interview a lot of money guests and wealthy guests, and it's called Wealthy Wealthy, and it's money wealth, WEALTH, and then wealthy, WELLTH. Because ultimately, in the acquisition and pursuit of wealth, meaning money, the follow up to that is for the sake of what? Like, why? Why the money and why this much? And it's ultimately for the sake of underwriting the cost of living a good life, a wealthy life, which means it helps us pay for the cost of being healthy and wealthy. And just at the end of the day, make an impact and doing good work.
So again, that's Krisstina.com, Krisstina.com. And then Wealthy Wealthy, the podcast, which is wealthy like normal, and then wealthy, WELLTHY. I love the play
Correct.
on words. That's so cool. Oh my gosh. Okay, one more question for you, Christina. And this doesn't have anything to do with what we talked about today, but the show is called Rock Your Talk. And so one of my questions I like to ask guests is, who's your favorite rock band or rock singer? If you have one, who would you want to have playing in your car?
Oh my gosh, let's see. If it's a rock band, I just have to go back to my favorite rocker, which was John Bon Jovi. You know, he was
Oh
kind of
yeah.
my crush back in the day, and he's still sexy as ever. And anyway, and he's had a great marriage and a good career. So I always go back to Bon Jovi.
He is a popular choice on this show. Yes. Yeah, I just heard him being interviewed the other day, and just an amazing man, philanthropic, and still writing songs and performing, and just an amazing person. So I agree. He is an awesome rocker. All right. Well, thank you for being on our show. And for all of you out there listening, make sure to check out all the money wealth tips, wealthy tips that Christina has on Krisstina.com, Krisstina. And if you haven't already done so, be kind to yourself today. Make sure you intentionally take a moment out, maybe give yourself a hug or tell yourself something nice, and pass that along to somebody else as well. And we will see you on the next episode. Make sure you subscribe so that you get all these really great tips from these experts that we have coming at you, sharing their knowledge. And I know I'm learning a lot. I always learn something from everybody. So thank you. And Christina, thank you for being our guest today. And we'll see you guys later.